welcome to another episode of the Color in Cannabis podcast. On today's episode, we're going to interview me, Terryn Buxton. I figured since a lot of folks don't know me and we've been recording these episodes, folks should get an opportunity to get to know who I am since I'm interviewing everybody else. So today we're going to focus a little bit about me, my backstory, and I'm going to answer some of the questions that I ask of the other guests. Or I guess someone else will be asking me some questions that we ask of the other guests. So to start things off, my name is Terryn Buxton. I'm the owner of Oakland Extracts, a cannabis company in Oakland, California. We are an extract company. We've been around for 10 years. I've been in the legal cannabis industry for 18 years total. So before Oakland Extracts, I was a grower. I worked as a bud tender. I did some consulting with a bunch of other brands. I've done sales. I've kind of worn a lot of hats in the industry, and I've seen a lot of things. Been here since 2006. And so it's afforded me the opportunity to see a lot of changes in the industry over the past almost 20 years and kind of get to know a lot of the people out in the space. And the reason I started this podcast was so many of the cannabis-based podcasts were interviewing a lot of interesting people in the business, but rarely were there people that actually looked like me or the people that I work with. And I wanted the opportunity for us to kind of highlight our communities a little bit in the cannabis space. Obviously, there's been minorities in the cannabis industry from day one, and we just want to make sure that everyone gets the proper shine. And so the focus of this podcast is interviewing different business owners and people in the industry, tell a little bit about their story, and give them an opportunity to kind of talk about their products and promote their businesses a little bit. And I started doing this because I've been pretty burnt out for years. Past few years have been a definite struggle. Anyone in the California cannabis industry has seen the market decline sharply. And so you're just kind of working harder and harder and harder for less returns. And it's just getting frustrating. But one of the things I found most interesting was continuing to go to all the events that we always have to go to and just meeting all the new people that were coming into cannabis. The last couple of times I've been to MJ BizCon in Vegas, I just spent most of the conference just walking up randomly to any black or brown folks that I saw and just asking what brought them into the space just out of curiosity, or really just avoiding talking about my products. I was just tired of babbling about Oakland Extracts. And so meeting all these new people and hearing their stories, it was just interesting. Everyone had like a really, really interesting story. And I was like, God, I wish more people could hear these people's stories, because it was never a direct path into cannabis. There's always some interesting turn of events that led them here. And so after having numerous conversations like these, I thought it'd be cool to have some kind of some form of media where we could actually talk to these people and reveal what's going on with them and all that good stuff. And so that's really been what Color in Cannabis podcast is about, just kind of promoting some folks who don't get as much shine as we would like to see. And I'm going to stop babbling because that's going to get really, really boring. And so we're being joined by Michaela Garcia, who helps run Equity Trade Distro, and is someone I work with very, very closely, and is also the person that's responsible for anything cool or positive social media-wise for a Color in Cannabis podcast. That's Michaela. If it sucks, it's her fault too. But she's kind of handling all of that, and she knows me really well, and she gives me a lot of grief when we're in distro, so we thought she'd be a great choice of someone to interview me for this episode of the podcast. So Michaela Garcia, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'll let you take it over.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're here to interview you. So
yes,
let's find out how you got started. How did you get started in the industry? What brought you into the cannabis industry?
I kind of stumbled into the cannabis industry. I wasn't intentionally trying to make this my career. Mm-hmm. I was doing work in nonprofits. Everyone on my mom's side of the family after college, you spend a year or two doing some kind of service-related work. So I was doing nonprofit stuff, working at community-based programs. And instead of just doing that for a year, I wound up staying there for several years, thinking I was going to go to grad school, but I was making no money. So I just kind of stayed in working for these programs and stayed broke for several years. And I had a good friend of mine that started growing, and he had helped me with a previous project. And so just in terms of sweat labor kind of a vibe, he helped me build out a project, and he asked for some help building out his garden. So I helped him build out his garden. And he knew that I like to consume a lot of cannabis. And he was like, hey, do you want to kind of help around here? And I started helping him. And then I realized I had a green thumb, and I was actually more interested in growing his plants than even he was. And then that led from working with him to his larger crew, then getting my own grow operation started. And I started growing, and I started growing full time at a certain point. The nonprofit I was working at had a change of leadership, and it was time to go. And so I started growing full time. And that kind of evolved into me working as a bud tender at Harborside Health Center, which was right around the corner from my house. And then
where were you growing?
I was growing in the backyard of my house in the Fruitvale district of Oakland.
Wow.
So it was just a little backyard shed. It was just a little 2-liter. It was really, real small. I mean, it did more than enough to pay the bills. This was medical cannabis. So that 2-liter, I paid all my bills and had savings. And then I was helping out friends in their gardens. Right. And so I was kind of receiving income from helping other folks and doing trimming and all that kind of like labor kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And but still, like, again, this was medical era, so I was making more money doing that than I'd ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
Just all the years of the medical marijuana era in California were very fruitful. And so even if you're just trimming and kind of had a couple lights, you could make some decent money.
Yeah.
And then turn that into actually having your own extract company. And again, medical model, it's not rec, and there's no real taxes, there's no real anything. We did really well for a while. And then at a certain point, I think it was when I was working at Harborside, I'd always related to cannabis as something cool. Just I like to smoke weed.
Yeah.
I like to relax, and I know it has medical properties. And medical's important. I get it, and I knew about cancer and AIDS and that kind of stuff. That there's a medicine that's useful for them, but I wasn't thinking about it as its utility for people in general.
Right.
But working at Harborside, we just had so many customers come in with so many like severe medical ailments, and you're kind of helping them all the time, and it transformed my vision of what cannabis was. It's not being about this cool thing to get high, and it was actually like something that was super
helping
useful.
people.
Yeah. And then somewhere when I was working there is when I realized like I didn't want to leave cannabis, like one way or the other. I wanted to stay in the industry, but I didn't want to always be a bud tender because I didn't want to stay broke. And so that evolved into me having my own business, and then we're here 10 years later.
Yeah. Well, what made you choose extracts versus like flower?
Stumbled into that too. I love flower. Everyone who knows me knows I smoke joints all day.
All day.
I dab and all that kind of stuff, but I smoke
Fat
joints. I want fat joints all day. But what it was my business partner, before that, it was a friend of mine who worked at Harborside with me. He was a former chef. And we loved a couple edibles, and I love edibles, and he likes to cook. So like we're always talking about edibles and dreaming, oh, we should make that, we should make this. And so we kind of planned on making an edible company. And then we didn't do anything about it because we had our little jobs or whatever. And he actually partnered with another friend of mine, and they kind of started making hash on their own and started making some really good hash, but it was in the traditional market. And then at a certain point, that fell apart. And he had a bunch of skills, and he had some of the equipment, and I knew a bunch of farmers. I was like, wow. And then we started kind of making hash together a little bit, and it was actually a much more complicated story than that. Yeah. But at a certain point, it was just me and my boy, and we're making hash together, and we're selling it to the clubs. But again, we got together thinking, okay, we're going to learn how to make hash really well so we can start doing this edible thing. But it's like, to make good edibles, you're making bubble hash, moderate-based hash. It doesn't sell as well. Whereas we started started blasting and started doing butane-based hash, started making shatter, wax, live resin, all that kind of stuff. And it just took off from underneath us. And it just got really popular and really successful, so much that it distracted us from edibles. And next thing you know, we're an extract company.
And next thing you know, you're an extract company.
10 years later.
Yeah, because that edible market is flooded.
Yeah, and it was worse then too. I mean, it's always been bad, but I think like 2012, 2013, it was just like there's so many edible companies, and everyone was vying for the same little bit of shelf space that it just didn't make sense then. And affordable concentrates were kind of a new thing. There were concentrates, but they weren't all affordable, and the quality varied widely. Yeah. And since I had a bunch of connections from the farmers I've been working with, I got just a phenomenal material. Because back in the day, you could get trim for basically free. Yeah. So you get some free trim and you blast it. It tastes like shit, but whatever. It was free. You don't really care. Right. But if you're able to source it from like really, really high quality material, everything we made was just really, really good because it was starting. We were using flowers before a lot of people just because we had these farmers were just kind of giving us stuff. And so, and then that was really like our focus was top shelf quality at everyday price. And that was one of the reasons we started the company, started calling it Oakland Extracts. We started making concentrates because we were working with really good farmers. The quality was really, really good. So it was phenomenal quality. And I felt bad about having it really, really expensive because this was an era where it might be $40 a gram or $80 a gram or $100 a gram. It was like a crazy fluctuation. And we did the math, and it was like we could do fine at selling it to the customer at $30 to $40 a gram. We didn't have to charge $80. Yeah. And so top shelf quality at everyday prices are a little motto.
That's what we do at Sanctuary Farms.
That is true.
Top quality flower at an affordable price.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
But yeah, that's dope. Hell yeah.
I smoked some purple churro last night, and it was quite good.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So tell me what inspires you to keep going in the industry, because I know you said it's really hard right now. I know it's really hard right now in the industry. I hear a lot of stories from a lot of people about how hard it is to like be continuously like still in it. Like, what is inspiring you to like keep it going, to keep pushing in this industry that is like actively pushing people out? I
don't have a good story or answer for what keeps me in it. Okay. I think I am motivated by dumb pride. I've been here for 16 years. We've had this company for 10 years, and it's kind of like I don't want to quit just on the like time in kind of a thing. And not that I put time in the beginning expecting I was going to get this great return, but it's just like stubbornness. It's like, F you, I'm here. Like, we're going to figure out a way to limp along.
Like Kim Kardashian says, I didn't come this far just to come this far.
That is not someone I would pull a quote from, but yes, I'm sure. Yes. She did say that, and that does bear some relevance. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, just kind of like stubborn pride. Like, we're here. We don't want to give up. That's part of it. I'd say a better answer, if I was going to try to give a cool answer, is that we've done a lot of cannabis events in Oakland.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of older Black folks come up to me who like don't do concentrates, don't dab or anything like that, but they've just kind of seen me around for a minute, and they understand that this is my company, and they come up to me and they like talk about like how much it means to them that like one of us is present in the business. And even though I explained there's a bunch of us in the business, it's not just me, but like they're the ones they see, or they're one person they see. And I've had so many conversations like that where it's like literally like 60, 70, 80-year-old Black folks are just kind of hugging me. Like, we're proud of you. And it's like, even when I don't want to do this, which is often, it's like, I think about them, and I think about like how much pride they have. And then like, I forget how long I've been in the business, and I meet a lot of people who will tell me like, I met you like this year. And then like 5 years later, like it like somehow like my story has impacted their decisions and impacted their path, and somehow my story has impacted them to be in the industry. Like, it's significant to them. So even though it's not super significant to me, like it matters so much more to them. And I feel like in general, like, I mean, I care about my business, it matters to me, but it matters so much more to so many other people in the community that I feel like quitting would be kind of like letting them down. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not quitting to go to do anything cooler. So it's just like, and I'm used to being broke at this point. So it's just like, let's go.
Well, yeah, because your business has been self-funded this whole time.
Yeah, that's been an interesting choice. If you have a rich uncle, I would go with that. Self-funding sucks. Don't take money from strangers. Don't take money from other people. Don't take money that involves a contract. But if you can get a handshake from an uncle, if you got that, that's great. I feel like the people I know in cannabis are actually successful. As much as they did it themselves and it was bootstraps and all that kind of, it was a really cool uncle. Like somebody wrote a check kind of a thing. That's a great place to start, because like when you're not paying yourself so you can pay the people that are helping you, and then like that's not cool. And again, like medical, we did so well for so long, it lulled us into a false sense of security. Like this is always going to be like this. And I saved some, but I spent a lot more, and I gave away a lot of money. Like we would tell other people were trying to start businesses, and we just kind of like helped a lot of folks, kind of a thing. And then since 64 happened, Prop 64, with 2016 or 2018, whenever that dropped, and the profits dropped out of it. Like I went from like helping people a lot to like not helping people at all, and going from like, I don't want to, my mom's fine, she needs nothing from me, but I would do random stuff. I'd pay her property taxes. I was just a little sick, because she's always taking care of me. That was cute. And then to me now, her being like, hey baby, do you need some help with something? It's like, I'm a little old for that. And so that sucks. But again, I'm used to being broke, so I ain't going anywhere.
If you could bring something back from the 215 days into the cannabis industry now that would help, what would you bring back?
I mean, the not fair thing to say is the absence of taxes. I mean, it's like our margins are trashed because taxes are insane. I mean, even the customer's like, but 34% of their purchase price is taxes, and that's not going to the brands, that's just going to the state. And so it's like trying to survive on like single digit margins or whatever the hell that we wind up having to do. Like, that's just not sustainable. I don't know what I could, because there's nothing, I don't know what decisions I could have made sooner that would lead me better now. Like maybe take a small amount of money, just not a large sum, but everyone I know who's in the worst trouble is because they took money. And there's like contracts, they have to pay back a certain amount by a certain time. No one's meeting the benchmarks they're supposed to meet, and people are slowly losing control of their companies because whoever gave them the money is taking things back. And so it's like, I'm glad I'm not in that boat, but the fact that like I routinely don't pay myself to pay other people to help me with stuff, like that's kind of getting frustrating too.
I know a lot of people who are like, my dad talks about all the time, all the people that took all that money and then are now like going out of business versus like you and Sanctuary and all these other brands that we work with. We're self-funded. We're just like, we're not taking that. And then you have way more control over your company.
Way more control and just no money.
But it is no money.
So I don't know what I would have done differently.
But we're doing it to help the people.
Yeah, sure. Helping folks.
All right. Well, I know you've been in the game for a really long time. What advice would you give people coming into the cannabis industry now?
Don't come in with the intention of making money.
I knew you were going to say that.
Don't come in with the intention of building a successful business in California that's going to mean anything. do it because you love the plant and you can't think of doing anything else. I mean, I'm in a situation where like I'm never willing to put myself in a situation where I have to worry about the fact that I smell like weed.
Yeah.
I smoke weed all day.
All day long.
And I'm not gonna. I am wearing no cologne. I'm not covering it up. I'm not fucking spraying ozone. I'm not doing anything. I smoke weed, and I'm like, that's like one of the first things out of my mouth dealing with people like that. Like if I move somewhere, like I've not moved a lot of places. I'm telling the landlord, I smoke a lot of weed. And they're like, it's okay. And I was like, no. Yeah. I smoke way more than anyone you've ever met smokes weed. So this is even remotely a problem. I don't want to, I don't want to deal with it. And so I care that much about although I guess recommend to not care that much about the plant and go live your life. But it'd only be here if this is what you're determined to do.
Yeah,
and
again, you love to do it.
Yeah, and it can't be about making money.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still make money in states that are just now legal. I mean, there are markets in America where you can make a ton of money. And there's a bunch of people in California making a ton of money, but there's those bunch of people represent like a tiny percentage of the industry as a whole. And then the ability to be successful in another state, I mean, it would kind of help.
They're saying Vegas is popping off right now.
Yeah, Vegas is popping, but there's money in Vegas, and once they stop caring, they stop caring. It's Vegas, but it's like, but then you got to move to Vegas, and they want you to actually be a Vegas native to be there. So if you're moving there, you're going to move there just as an employee, not a business owner. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the states have gotten smart about if they have lax regulations, they kind of, or in certain states, they kind of lean towards the actual residents as separate from like Oklahoma, which it seems like they'll take anyone in Oklahoma. So just finding this, like, if you can have the money to move from state to state, and you have a portable skill, like if you are a very successful grower and you can save up a bunch of money and then you can move to a state that has new medical marijuana laws, you can get in there and make a ton of money. But if you're just trying to come to California, like I'm talking to someone who's advising someone now, and they're trying to spend a bunch of money to get in the California market, and it's like there isn't. For what? You're not going to recoup. I mean, you just want to be here to burn some money, like come burn it, but
cause
you got to want it.
Yeah, you're struggling.
But if you want it and you love it, it's cool. Otherwise, it sucks.
Yeah, and you love it.
Yeah, I guess.
You do. You talk passionately about cannabis and smoking weed and having it be a part of who you are. And it is inspiring. That's why a lot of people always come and fuck with you, because they're like, Terryn is passionate about it. So.
I feel bad. I sold them a false bill of goods. Like, I'm just speak passionately about anything. I can speak passionately about ice cream. Give me some Haagen-Dazs, I can go. You know what I'm saying?
Salt and straw is better. Yeah,
Haagen-Dazs strawberry is over all that little bougie, fancy San Francisco nonsense, but we can go. Okay. Kids and salt and straw.
Salt and straw has a strawberry and balsamic ice cream. That's fire.
Yeah, give me Haagen-Dazs.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. All right. Well, what do you think are your unique cultural barriers?
This was a question, and I leveled on people, and it was a terrible question. But I wanted Color and Cannabis to kind of like talk about how your culture and ethnicity has impacted you in the business, but I don't feel like I framed that question in a way that can deliver a decent answer. Because I think the way that culture or ethnicity has impacted me in the business, it might not be in a universal way, but like my parents, they don't have anything against cannabis. They're concerned about being involved in cannabis was going to jail, the war on drugs. So the fact that the Black and brown communities were targeted, but through the use of marijuana because of the war on drugs to destroy their communities, like that put me more at risk of getting in trouble. And so my parents were just like, they didn't want me to get in trouble. They didn't want me to go to jail. So like, I remember when I was in high school, my mom said she'd rather find out that I was smoking weed than drinking, because my mom's a psychologist and she knows what happens when you get like a bunch of 14-year-old boys drinking versus smoking weed, like outcomes. And so she's like, you're less likely to get in trouble or make poor decisions smoking than drinking. And I think I took that advice too well. I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, say less, Mom.
Yeah, we're smoking all day, all the time. And so, but I always liked cannabis more. I remember in high school, I mean, I think the reason I like getting high. I remember when I first got high, I think it was sophomore year. And I was at a boarding school, and we all smoked some weed in the bathroom.
In the bathroom?
Yeah, in the bathroom. It was a boarding school.
Did you use paper to roll your...
Oh, man.
People in my high school used to use binder paper to roll joints in the bathroom.
I think it was a metal pipe. It was a small metal pipe.
Okay.
This metal pipe era. This was like mid-'90s, early to mid-'90s. And so smoked it. And slept like a baby. Didn't get super high, but I slept like a baby. And I had kind of some version of insomnia when I was a kid. I'd never slept well, ever. And that was the first time that I just blackout slept.
Hell yeah.
And then so I was like, ooh, and then every time I smoked, I just slept. And so I started like keeping weed, because I would take a couple hits before I go to bed and knock out. And I would still get high and all that other stuff, but I always saved that bedtime bowl. And my friends always knew. Everyone ran out of weed. Terrence got some weed, but he ain't sharing it with you. It's my fucking bedtime bowl. And so I just... What was the question?
It is like your unique cultural background.
Okay, I'm sorry. I started reminiscing about high school,
Yeah, but tell
smoking
me
weed in the
more.
bathroom
Tell
when I
me
was 14 and
more.
doing mushrooms in the woods. Oh.
Hell yeah.
But anyway,
We
so
want to know those stories.
so even though like so
Yeah.
I love cannabis. Mom was preferred me getting smoking cannabis into drinking. I kind of got into it deeply on my own. I didn't like drinking that much anyway. I didn't like kind of male group behavior.
Yeah.
Drunk, just because it's like really annoying.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, it's dudes, and so I'd rather be around smoking with some dudes, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so, or not dudes, but I'd just rather be smoking around people than just drinking. And so it was just my drug of choice immediately.
Yeah.
And I just did it like way too much. I got way too into it. If I drank as much as I was smoking,
Did you have
I'd probably
like
be dead.
dreads and you were like the total stereotype?
I mean, this isn't fair because you know me. I was not the total stereotype, but I allegedly I might have had dreads in high school and part of college. I cut them when I came home from college, and just everyone had dreads.
Okay.
And it was just a thing, and it was like, I don't like a thing. I don't want to be part of a thing. Yeah. And it wasn't just that. Actually, I came home, and it was during the whole Shake Your Dreads era, where it's just like dreads were everywhere, but it had nothing.
They're called locks now.
Whatever, but it had nothing to do with the culture.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune of spending time around some old school Rastas when I was younger, and I didn't grow them because of that, but I just I understood that there was some rules and there was a culture around it. Okay. And then when that era popped up, I was like, I'm really not interested in associating with that. Okay. But the main reason I cut it was in college. My senior year of college, I was going to a predominantly white school. Okay. And so hung out with a lot of people, a lot of different cultures, and the other kids at the school would treat me differently than the other black kids that I hung out with who didn't have dreads. And it was like they could identify with me more than them. And I was like, that kid actually likes you. He's near your age. Like, right. I'm an asshole. I don't fuck with you at all. But because I have dreads and you like Bob Marley, you're going to kind of talk to me different. And I saw them seeing me being treated differently behind some superficial shit like that. And part of me was just like kind of mad at that. I was like, fuck you, no, I'm sitting over here kind of a thing. And then buzz that shit. And then I let it grow in, and it was thin up here. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm never growing anything again ever again. And now it's just a shape. Yep. But that wasn't.
So back to your mom preferring you to smoke cannabis.
I dabble. In terms of the ethnic issue is just how the race or ethnicity has impacted it. Yeah. My mom and her friends were more worried about me going to jail. Yeah. And so that was a deterrent for me getting involved in the industry. And the more I got deeper into the industry, that was always a central concern. She never doubted that it was a medicinal plant. She never doubted its value. But she was like, I don't want you to go to jail. Yeah. And she was like, it might be medicine for some people, but you smoke it a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of my friends who come from different ethnic backgrounds, that's why I actually put that question in there. It's like a lot of my friends from the Asian community, like they have a similar story of their parents being very against them being involved in the industry because of the stereotype about drugs or the concern that like the way that our society has lumped all drugs in as one, and they don't see the difference between this and crack. And so like I know a lot of communities that people feel that pressure to not get involved in it because of that, whereas other people like grew up in a community or a culture that embraced it. And so it's just, that's why I asked that question.
That's totally how I grew up. Just fully, like weed is like the most normal thing in my life.
That's awesome.
It's the most normal thing. And I didn't even start smoking weed until I was like 18.
Because you saw it so much, you're so immersed.
Yeah, because I was just like, it wasn't like an exciting thing for me, you know? Like everybody was like, oh, we're smoking weed. And I'm just like, my dad is growing weed in our backyard and he's actually drying it in my bedroom, so.
Slightly different world,
Yeah. Okay, that's what's up. So, tell me, I want to know more about like your relationship with cannabis, because you have some like really great stories, and I know that like you be smoking a lot, and I know a lot of people in this industry who like don't even really smoke weed, and I'm just like, how can you not smoke weed but be in the cannabis industry so heavily?
A lot of cannabis CEOs do not smoke weed. Or if they do, they smoke a very small amount and they're lit. Yeah. They'll hit their little distillate
cart. That's me though. I'm a puff and I'm like,
yeah. My relationship with cannabis. Yeah. I hesitate to get too deep into it because like a lot of us in our community are very passionate about the benefits of cannabis, and we don't want to talk about the negatives that some people experience.
Right.
And I've been around for a long time, and I've noticed that if I start talking about the negatives, people like really don't like hearing that. But I get it, because the media has only talked about negatives for so long, and we've had this sliver of time that we've talked about the positives, and I don't think people want to go back all over to the negatives.
Yeah.
I can say for me, I consume cannabis too often for my own good, that I would be, and it's not cannabis's fault, but I would be more productive in my life if I consumed less of it, and I'm aware of that.
Okay.
And as much as I love it and I feel like I function better with some in my system, I'm very clear that there's certain events I want zero in my system for, and that speaks a lot. If I want nothing in my system to be at my so-called best in this moment, I have to, that says something about what I'm putting in my system.
Yeah.
I smoke too often, and I don't feel comfortable about what's going to happen to my lungs over time. I do think cannabis is a medicinal herb. I do believe smoking cannabis in a regular or moderate way does not damage the lungs. I do not smoke it in a regular or moderate way.
Okay.
I have never really been moderate about it, and the more access I've had to it, the more I've consumed it in vast quantities. I mean, when I was growing, we were smoking at least an ounce a day because we're rolling chopper joints all day, and so it's like, I know, and then I dab too much, and I'm from the old dab era where we're dabbing off red hot nails. If it was red hot, we were mad. We'd get it white hot again.
Oh, what?
The nail, we used to get the nails so hot that it wasn't red, it was white hot. If it cooled down to being red hot, it wasn't hot enough, we were tortured again. I'm from that era of dabbing. I mean, now it's all low temp dabs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I'm from just like torch from Home Depot, like with the tank on it, with the, I mean, we're like, and we did that aggressively. Yeah. Like, 12, 13 years ago, we were doing 20, 30, 40 dabs in the fucking, not in the sitting, but over the course of hours in the evening.
I've done
kind of
2 dabs my entire life.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I think for our birthday, we used to have to dab our age plus some. No. And this is the red hot dab era. And so, yeah. And so
dab your age?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Like if you're 36 years old.
You have to take 36 dabs?
However old you are, plus a couple for lying, And
Y'all
so,
are wildin'.
That's what it was. And so, like, I don't think that kind of consumption is a positive thing for me and my health and my longevity. Yeah. But I can't speak for other people. I know people. I know people who have medical issues that have consumed far more than that, and it has alleviated their medical problems, and they have no problems in their life. So I'm again not condemning the amount of cannabis or cannabis at all. I know for me, I use it in ways that are not as healthy. They're not the healthiest thing for me. But I'm going to continue to. When I leave here, I'm going to smoke a chopper. And I'm going to be smoking choppers for the rest of the days. But it's like more moderation would be more positive in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How has your like smoking back then when you were younger and like now, like how were you smoking then versus like how are you smoking now? Because I know you roll these like the ugliest
my joints are ugly. Yeah, my joints are ugly.
Ever seen.
They're ugly. They burn. They're proper.
So fat and they're so ugly.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're fat and ugly. Like my joints are a mess, and I don't care.
It's okay.
I hang out with kids who roll these pristine, beautiful joints. That they're on Instagram. They're like Instagram famous for their joints, and I'll bang out three of my ugly ones in the time of one of their good ones. I'll then smoked 1.5 of mine. I'm leaving, and they just finish that perfect. If I'm gonna take a picture, I'm gonna take a picture with your joint, and let me not BS, because like. All of my friends who are great rollers, I'm going to start effing up everybody's Instagram name. Pepe420, and then Terp Shawnee or Terp Boy Shawnee or whatever, and then Bruno Rolls. I mean, these youngsters.
They're have like the most creative ways.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and they're choppers, and they're huge, and they burn perfectly, and I love them, and whenever I see them, they bless me with one, and I love it, and I hold on to that perfect joint, and I roll a bunch of my ugly ones all on the way home so I can smoke as much as I want. So, I mean, this is going to sound bad. I don't know if it's going to sound bad. Back in the medical era when things were nice and we were like really busy and we had a bunch of people working for us, we had a young man that would come in on Fridays and roll joints for us all day.
Joints for you guys?
And like he'd roll them and he would like label them and put them in different color-coded tubes. And so we'd have these nice boxes of joints rolled for us fresh that week. So they're not really old pre-rolls. And that was back when we actually had money. This was before. Yeah. A lot of other famous people started talking about their blunt rollers. We'll get into all that. This is a long time ago. But I miss that. I miss perfect joints, but I'm lazy.
What are you smoking? What are you smoking on right now?
Man, ugly joint.
Okay, but like what brand are you smoking? What's your favorite right now?
Okay, I like lots of different strains, and so different companies do different strains differently. I'm a big fan of sativas. I'm a big fan of Durban Poison. Not everyone does Durban Poison.
Yeah, I like Durban Poison.
Up north, there's a phenomenal Durban Poison. Sense, who I consume the most of the weed that I consume from the legal market is either Sanctuary or Sense. And partly it's because I know Sanctuary and Sense, and they give it to me a lot.
Yeah.
But also it's like I would buy them, and I have bought them on numerous
Right.
occasions. Sanctuary to me is is it the best outdoor I've ever had? Basically, I mean, somewhere
Y'all
between
heard that?
Agricola Farms too.
Yeah.
So between Agricola and Sanctuary, it's extraordinary. But consistently, like I've taken Sanctuary and rolled it up into joints and taken it home, and people smoked it at home, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And they don't believe that it's outdoor.
Yeah.
People who aren't in it don't understand that well-grown outdoor has a higher terpene profile than indoor, and so.
Yep.
And since it's the terpenes that we're chasing, it's like that really that outdoor, that really well-grown outdoor, or light dep or whatever, I feel like has the highest amount of terps in the market. And so you get the most benefit from that in your physiology.
Yeah.
And I do like my indoor too, but I love that. Smoking a lot of scents. I mess with Fig a little bit. I like Fig Farms, but I know you smoke when you know. And then Joe Snow, for people who know Joe Snow, but if you don't know Joe Snow, I feel really bad for you.
I don't.
I'm sorry. Joe Snow's the man. Joe Snow grows weed for most
Joe
of
Snow?
Yeah, he grows weed that the CEOs of these companies go look for.
Period.
Like he's the man.
Get it, Joe.
But indoor or organic, living soil, whether it's indoor or out. I like. It's rare to find indoor living soil. Joe Snow does it. A couple other people do it. I love him for that. But then Sanctuary does it as well. And so
indoor living soil.
But right now, what's in my house, what's in my car is Sense. I saw them the other day, and I tried a bunch of things, and everything's phenomenal. And it's just
Dope.
Yeah. And then strains like Durban, I like all that. The indicas, we don't have any real indicas anymore. Everything's a hybrid. Yeah. Everything is candy gas, which is cool. I like it when it tastes good. I miss like falling asleep from weed. And now all these hybrids and all these indicas, I don't really have that sleepy time weed anymore.
I have to eat an edible.
Yeah.
If I smoke it, it doesn't put me to sleep.
Yeah. Now I just fall asleep just because I don't sleep a lot and I work too much. And I'm just tired, so I can smoke whatever, and I'll just pass out from being straight tired. Yeah, whatever. It's true. It's true. I like to tuck in early now.
Yes. Oh, okay. Let's see. All right. What does the future hold for Oakland Extracts, and or what do you think is the direction of the cannabis industry?
Wow, those are two big questions.
They're two really big questions.
The future of Oakland Extracts.
What's the future of Oakland Extracts?
We are going to continue limping along. When I say that, I say that
I know you got some other projects coming.
Yeah, we're gonna launch some other. We're gonna launch some other SKUs. So we're gonna do some infused joints. We're gonna do live rosin. We're gonna do a lot of things that other people are doing in the concentrate space. But Tran, who's my business partner, who makes all of our goodies, everything made by Oakland Extracts. Shout out to Tran. Yeah, it's made by Aaron Tran. He's amazing.
Love you, Tran.
And he, like I said, he's a former chef, and we're working on relaunching an edible that we fell in love with many years ago.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our time and energy is kind of focused on relaunching this edible brand. But I want to expand the SKU assortment. I want to expand the different products that Oakland Extracts has as well. So we're going to expand Oakland Extracts. We're going to launch these edibles, and we're going to get into some merch and some clothing. And that was another thing when I first got into this business. I was really interested in not just making merch, but making some cool clothes. Yeah. And some burners done very successfully with cookies.
Also cream.
Yeah, cream.
Cream's got some merch.
Well, if we're gonna do that, then we're gonna say culture.
Yeah, culture.
Literally
culture.
Wear culture.
Live in culture sweatsuit.
Now, cream. I don't live in his clothes. I smoke his weed all the time.
Yeah.
And if another cannabis brand that we love a lot, that's part of the Equity Trade Network. Cream, KREME. But he's phenomenal.
Cash rules everything. Around.
Yeah, but it doesn't spell like that. But anyway, but I love his cannabis too. I mean, and I really enjoy working with the Equity Trade Network because I consume everyone's products there all the time. I take it for granted because I know everyone and they hand it to me as opposed to having to make a purchase. But I smoke KGB's pre-rolls all the time. I smoke Dolo's pre-rolls all the time. I give away Ma'at's, the honey, the infused honey.
Yep.
I gave that in
honey
I always mispronounce it. Yeah, but I share that a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously Agricola, like I consume large amounts of her cannabis as well.
She's got good shit.
And we've extracted a bunch of her flower as well. And so I love staying within the network, but in terms of brands outside the network, since
we have some like good quality brands within the Equity Trade Network.
Yeah, it's really
that good quality over,
Yeah, and I know this in a certain way sounds like a corny commercial, but it really isn't. I think one of the things I like about working with the Equity Trade Network is that I feel like when I go talk to clubs or dispensaries about the entire portfolio, it's not like buy these brands because they're equity, buy these brands because they're black and brown. Like, no, buy this product because it's a fire product at a great price.
Yeah.
Like that you can just stop there. And if you want the additional story of the social impact, we can talk about that too. Right. But that's never part of my sales pitch. My sales pitch is always Sanctuary Farm is better flour for the dollar, period. Yeah. And like you can just rest on that. But again, if you want some extra fuel for your bud tenders, they can tell a sweet story about who these people are. Right. But I think that's critical in equity or any conversation about a small business owner coming into cannabis. You sell your product because it's a great product at a great price. I don't care about your story. I don't care about your trauma. I don't care about where you come from. I don't care about where you think you're going. I don't care if you think you're funded. I don't care if you have multi-million dollars from some foreign investment. Have quality product at a better price or as equal price of your competition and win off of that. Everything else is BS.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You got to lead with that. You got to let your product speak for itself. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm not here to buy your merch.
Yeah.
I like your merch, but that's not what we're here for. Exactly. You know? Yep. So, hell yeah. Okay. This is a question that I want to know about your grandma.
Oh, Lord.
And I want to know why that's a question that you ask people on this podcast.
I've been asking people about their influences.
Okay.
And as part of this whole, this is a cultural, we're talking about the fact that we come from a different culture or ethnicity, and that adds a different flavor to our choices and our experiences. And so then I was asking people like who inspired them, and people are very quick to give answers of famous people that people really well-known people. Oh, it's someone important inspired
Bob Marley.
Yeah, whatever. And it's like, that's cool, but it's like that probably wasn't your answer when you were 14.
Right.
That probably wasn't the answer when you were learning what a work ethic was, when you're learning what risk it was and what risk you're willing to take was. And so I often, and since in my head, the answer always wound up being like, it's always family. It's either my dad, often my granddad, or my grandma.
Right.
And so then I started skipping the whole who inspired you. Just tell me something about your grandparents, and they unloaded so much. And it was like, okay, this is the real story of who these people are.
It's more
personal. But that's not like an ethnic thing. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, green, or brown. Most of the people I know, if they know their grandparents, they had a profound impact on them in some way, shape, or form, if they're blessed enough to have them in their life. Right. And so I love hearing the stories of their connection with their grandparents, their connection of those previous generations, as a way of kind of talking about culture and the impact of the culture on it. Because so many of us, like, particularly depending on what community you come from, I'm obviously from the black community.
Are you?
Yes, shockingly. Whoa. And so my grandparents' experiences were colored by the civil rights movement and then just the trauma of being black in America in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, today, any point in American history ever. And then I have other friends, I have a bunch of Jewish friends in the business, and like we don't talk about it much, but when we do get into the impact of their grandparents, like they're telling them like they come from a level of intensity, and so a lot of the folks who come from these different backgrounds, but again, it's not a race-based thing. Everyone I know, when you ask them about their grandparents, you start unearthing intense stories about what their family has gone through, and everyone struggles, everyone has strife, and what we learn from that is so much a part of like how we become successful, is the good lessons that we can take from that, and it's dope.
Well, tell me about your grandma. I want to know about Terryn's grandma.
Okay, I can think my grandparents. My grandma was amazing. She
your influence.
I mean, I was lucky. I had 4 parents. My parents got divorced when I was a kid, and they both remarried. So I had step parents. So I had a stepdad and a stepmom, and everyone got along really well. And so I had 4 different parents who could give me a spanking at any time for the same thing. But really, they just gave me a lot of love. And so I had my mom's grandparents, had my dad's grandparents, but then my step parents had theirs as well. And so I just got to see a lot of different visions of blackness from different parts of the country, because all of them kind of migrated from different places to get to California. So hearing the stories of like one of my grandparents is from Tennessee, another one might be from Alabama, other ones oddly enough are from Seattle. And so it's just like, and there's very different communities that they came from, and so they kind of bring different things to that.
Right.
My grandma was a badass. And when I think about my grandma, I think most about my mother's mother, because that's the one I kind of knew the best. And she had 6 kids while working a job and having a husband who worked as well, but just raising 6 kids as she was working, and just the way that like her entire life was dedicated to her family and her kids.
Yeah.
Like she didn't have personal achievements as far as she was concerned. She didn't recognize that her children's achievements were her achievements.
Yeah.
She was just nose to the grindstone, like perform.
Right.
And my granddad kind of had a level of intensity around that too. And both of them on my mom's side, but I guess all of my grandparents, but I got this most from hearing this mentioned most consistently from my mom's side.
Yeah.
Was just that you work harder than anyone and there's no excuse.
Yeah.
Like there's no excuse. They're not like asking favors. Like you earn shit.
Yeah.
And you work harder than the person next to you. And then if you lose on your own terms and recognize that like what you didn't do to succeed.
Right.
Like I'm not the hardest.
Learn from it.
Yeah. I'm not the hardest worker in the room.
Yeah.
But I'm really good about being accountable for what I don't do. So I'm not really interested in blaming other people. I think Oakland Extracts could have been infinitely more successful if I was more focused and diligent in a bunch of different ways. I feel like the reason we aren't successful isn't just because the market's bad and taxes are bad and regulations are bad and like ethnicity. I don't think about those as the reasons for my lack of success. I think about all the ways I could have worked harder, and that was instilled in me from them. Is like that's what you look to first: is how could you make yourself better, to improve, to succeed, kind of a thing. Yeah. And there wasn't a whole bunch of like, oh, lay on my shoulder and tell me your pain kind of vibe. Yeah. It was like, yeah, it sucks. Get up, spit on it, rub some dirt, and get it busy. You know.
Period.
So,
yeah. That's how look, I may be a millennial, but I definitely got, get up, keep going, keep pushing.
It's a long way to be.
Yeah. Well, when you're feeling like defeated, you know, I know this industry is hard. What are like things that like keep you pushing in it? You know?
What keeps me going when things are hard?
Yeah.
I make sure I do certain things to take care of myself and my well-being. I guess if I was young, I would talk about my mental health or something like that.
Mental health?
Yeah, whatever. I have like a top 5 things that I like to do, and I like to do as many of them every day as I can.
Okay.
Like I want to walk my dog every day or as much as I can. Yep, Con, love him to death. And then I have Presley in the house too, another little doggy. But it's a cute doggy. So walking my dog, working out, meditating, reading, and writing. Yeah. So if I can do like at least 3 of those top 5 every day, like I can let that be the focus of my day and everything else just be just other stuff. So no matter what my successes or failures at work were or my stresses are, I know I did something on my top 5 about personal development.
Right.
But also just seeing so many other large companies fall away.
They're just falling away.
Yeah, like every week.
Big ones.
Every week it feels like someone's going out of business. Yeah. And at a certain point, it's kind of like, it's back to that stubborn pride. It's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Fuck that.
And then I ain't folding. And just kind of leaning into the adversity kind of side of it, which isn't logical. Like we've talked about before.
Yeah, we have a picture on our wall at Equity Trade Distro. That's
a nice little quote about how I feel about the cannabis industry.
How he feels about it.
And I do feel that way. But it's a losing proposition to be in California cannabis, in the legal California cannabis industry, attempting to make money. Yeah. It's like there's a fraction of a few that are doing it, but for most folks, it's futile. And if you're here just to stack a bunch of money, you're in the wrong place. Yeah, and
you're not gonna succeed.
Yeah, but I enjoy hanging out with people in the industry. I enjoy smoking a lot of cannabis. Yeah, more than anything right now, I've been enjoying these conversations because each of the interviews we've had have been with people that I've known for years, but I'm getting to know them in such a deeper way through talking to them. That's kind of like re-inspired me, and now I want to talk to even more people. And then hearing people struggle, like talking to Jason.
POP, holding it down.
He works so effing hard.
Yeah, he does.
I went to distro. I don't remember why I went to distro yesterday. And he's packing his shit up. And he's like, I'm going to be here till midnight. He
packages.
His own stuff.
He prints. He delivers.
And this is a man who, like, he's been a baller for years. He's owned hella businesses. Yeah. I'm not going to just put his shit out there, but he ain't broke. But he does it by hand all the time. And, like, I walk in, I see him work. Yeah. And then I'll go visit Dr. Natasha Agricola and her property, and it's like, where's all your helpers? She's like, what helpers? Yeah. I'm doing this myself this year. Yeah. And it's like, I wouldn't do this row. Yeah. You're doing this entire plot of land, and there's so many people I know in the space. Yeah. Like your dad doesn't sleep.
No,
I don't know what he lives at the distro.
Yeah, it's constant.
So it's like, how am I going to complain when everyone else around me is working as hard or harder, and no one's getting the successes, no one's getting the accolades, everyone's grinding. Yeah. So shut the F up and grind. So,
period. Yeah. Shut the F up and grind. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Fuck your feelings.
Well,
I'm sorry. Y'all don't like to hear that. That's my generation. F your feelings. Just work hard. I feel like my parents didn't say that, and they would resent hearing me say that's how I was raised, but I feel like that's how I was raised. F your feelings.
It definitely like brings a mentality to like keep going and keep pushing. And in this day and age, we are all so sensitive. Yeah. Everything is so much sensitivity around everything.
F your feelings, work harder. Just work harder.
But if you want to succeed, you have to work hard. You have to push through. You can't be looking for handouts. No. You have to just fucking get it done.
You can't be crying about whatever.
Get it done.
But actually, I get to be careful saying like don't cry about stuff because I've had so many benefits handed to me along the way. I've had a bunch of parents that actively love and support me. Yeah. I have like support from my community at large. I have not been to jail, knock on wood, somewhere. I have not been to jail around this shit. Like I've not had so many of the negative things that so many other people have had in this space that it's easy for me to be like, F your feelings, just keep going because I have a support system out there. But if you don't have a support system, if you don't have a bunch of family that's going to take care of you, you have to be a better steward of your feelings because you got to do it all on your own. Yeah. And so me saying F your feelings, work harder is coming from a position of privilege, and I'm aware of that. Yeah. But it's still the only answer that I know is no matter what is going on, just put your head down and grind harder. Yeah. But again, as a position of privilege, I mean,
I'm really surprised, like after hearing like Jason's story and all the people that you've been talking to, like just for everything that they've been through to still be like have the attitude, the like upbeat attitude, still be these positive people who have like a great message to get out there, just to like see that is inspiring for me because I'll be thinking I go through shit. I'd be like, damn, my life is so hard. But then I hear these stories and I'm like, maybe I should do something right now.
It's like talking to Evelyn. Evelyn's like talking about being in prison. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, like prison. Damn. I don't even like top ramen like that. Yeah. What are we talking about here? Like, so I'm just lucky and blessed.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever, you know. Would you consider yourself an activist in the space?
No, not at all. I work and support a bunch of activists, but I think activist is a badge you have to earn. Yeah. And I haven't earned it. Like I've gone to some protests. I got hit by a couple of rubber bullets. I've had some tear gas. But to me, activist indicates a level of general activity in that space, and I'm not. I work with a lot of activists, and I'm in the equity community, but I'm not. I don't have an equity license. Yeah. And so I'm just around a bunch of equity folks, but I don't have an equity license. I'm just a dude with. I don't even got a license. Yeah. I'm third party in it from somewhere. I'm just grinding. I'm just hustling, you know. Yeah. And so I don't. And so I guess I. In that sense, I don't consider myself an activist, but I do support the activists. I'm not an anti-activist. Yeah. I just haven't done the work to deserve that title.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. All righty.
Don't want to be either. I'm trying to pay some bills, yo.
Trying to pay some bills. That activist life is
it's
hard.
Tough, man. I'm trying to pay bills.
I see like my dad is like grinds day and night to like speak up for people within the industry and just people in general, and
he gets shit on for it constantly. So I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool on that.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna just keep making my extracts.
I'm just keep doing what I'm doing. Like I'm here I'm just here being me, and then it's like,
and we love you.
However you respond to that, that's cool. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm not a good capitalist. I'm not a good business person. I'm terrible. I give away so much shit. I give away shit constantly. I'm not an activist. I'm not a good capitalist. I don't know. I'm potted. That's it.
Yeah.
I like to read. I like to play with my dog.
Yeah. You're
kind of
intellectual.
A nerd.
You have a lot of really good ideas and thoughts.
I'm a nerd. It's cool, man. I like Dungeons and Dragons. It's cool.
Hey, we all love Dungeons.
We ain't fun.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, what is your favorite method of consumption?
Oh man, digging into my boring questions.
No, I don't think it's boring.
Whatever. I like to smoke joints. I have a huge glass collection from back in the day. I used to be into bongs and bubblers and pipes and like boutique stores and finding and tracking down these artists for all this expensive shit, and all sits in cases under my house. And I've gone through I have all kinds of vaporizers, volcanoes, and all the wooty wahs.
You love that little, what's that little thing you use? The little pipe thing? What's that thing? The
little pipe thing?
Yeah.
How little is
it? The dab thing that
the Puffco Proxy. Yeah. I love Puffco products.
Love
that. So when I dab, I use Puffco products. Yeah. Particularly the Puffco Proxy. I've been using that a lot lately. Yeah. But joints, flower joint. I love edibles too. So my number one, joints in flower form, or joints with flour in them. Yeah. And then and I love edibles, and then in dabbing school.
I have a great video of you and my dad testing his edibles when he was a judge for the
Oh,
Cannabis
last year's
Cup.
Emerald Cup? Yeah. There's a lot of trash edibles, but there's some good ones. There's some good
Y'all,
ones.
them things took y'all down.
Well, like
you were out.
I think we were like, it was earlier on Friday than we realized.
Yeah.
And I was trying to help him prep for his meeting.
Yeah.
And so I had one or two, and then well, more than one or two.
Yeah.
But then his meeting started. It was a Zoom call. So I just sat in to listen to the Zoom call. So
Yeah.
I'm hungry at this point. So then I'm like eating them as food.
Eating them as food.
Yeah. So yeah. And then I barely made it home that day for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. This year I am a rosin judge. So I'll be dabbing a bunch of rosin with your dad.
Ooh.
Yep. And I'll be eating his edibles again.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Wait, who's also a rosin judge? Dad?
I am. I don't know who else is on the
okay.
James Joint team.
Yeah.
A bunch of other people who are way more important than me.
Dabbing. Does that also include like cartridges and stuff?
I use cartridges in the car, or I use vape pens like when I'm in the car where it's dangerous. And then every once in a while, I'll be lazy at home and I'll just try to hit the pen while I'm sitting on the couch. But no,
It doesn't do the same thing. It just not.
I don't fuck with that.
It doesn't hit.
I mean, we make really good pens,
Yeah.
and so the pens are important. But fuck
tries.
that. I like joints. I don't even like to dab half the time. I want a joint. The only time I like to dab is that every once in a while I'll get like F dabbing. And I'll hang out with one of my friends who has like the premier rosin selection, and they'll pull out some just amazing thing, and I'll dab it, and I'll be like, okay, dabbing's the best. Fuck you.
Yeah.
But if you don't have access to this ridiculous, if you're just every day, so I'd rather smoke flower. And even no matter how good the dab is, no matter how big the dab is, I always want a joint when I'm done. The joints just make me happy.
Joints are great. Flower is great.
Yeah, flower first.
Yeah.
I think I just spit on the table.
The first time I dabbed,
Sorry.
it took me out. I died.
Yep.
Somebody just was like, here, do it like this. And I did it, and
Knocked out. Well, that's the beauty of
KO'd.
cannabis.
I was hurting.
It doesn't matter like what your tolerance level is with one style. Like I've given many an OG who smoked prodigious amounts of cannabis their first dab, destroyed them, and in their first edible you get destroyed. The first, and I know dabbing kids who dab 24 hours a day, haven't smoked a joint in 6 months. They smoke a joint and they're laid out, and they're like, how can a joint do this? It's like every method of consumption is slightly different, impacts your physiology slightly differently, and a tolerance in one version does not equate to a tolerance in the other.
Yeah.
Smoke joints all day.
Yeah. All day. All day, baby.
I got some permanent marker in the car right now.
Some what?
Permanent marker.
What is that?
It's a very popular strain that you should know as much long as you work in the industry. It's probably like the strain of the year, like 2 years ago or something like that. It's overly done now.
Permanent marker.
Permanent marker, yeah.
Interesting.
I can't even pretend like it's a cool cutting edge strain. This shit was popular like years ago, but it's still cool.
What would you say is your favorite strain? Top three favorite strains.
Durban Poison.
Durban Poison.
At Harborside, we had a version of Super Silver Haze that was not the true Super Silver Haze.
Yeah.
It was too cheesy, and it became a thing for people who worked there. That's not Super Silver Haze. Whatever the F it was, it was amazing. And like the indicas come and go. Like there's a bunch of tasty indicas now. They're all cool. Like anything crossed with Zittles is kind of cool now, or whatever. Or skill. I mean, so those are all kind of tasty. But like back in the day, like when I worked at a dispensary and it's shit on the shelves, Cincy Star was an indica that was like one of the best tasting indicas I've ever smoked. But it didn't get you. It wasn't super potent. And now with everyone chasing test scores, it wouldn't rate.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Test scores, like everybody wants the high THC, THC. Give me high THC, but it's like
it's BS. I mean, I feel
it's such BS.
It's a mixture of things.
Such BS.
When I worked at Harborside, there was no lab testing, so there was no THC percentages. And then while I was working there, Steep Hill Labs opened up and started actually doing lab testing. And it was the first time it was in the California market that we had reliable lab tests for products. Okay. And so I went from selling cannabis with no lab test to seeing the impact of selling it with a test to turning into an era where everyone's chasing the test to now we're in an era where, not now, but for a while we've been in the era where the labs are doing whatever they can do to give you a higher number. And so now we're seeing 42% weed that last year was 36% weed that I'm pretty sure 6 years ago was 12% weed. I mean, like we're just grossly like changing the formula of how we get there. And so I don't like the testing because of that. And we know that the amount of THC present in the percentage does not equate to the physiological experience you're going to have with the plant. Right. That comes a lot more from the terpene profile and then a lot of different other small elements of the plants that we don't like super understand very well. That being said, I've talked to some people who've been growing for a long time and like they don't like the lab test, but they are seeing that there is some difference between their 16 and 30%.
Yeah.
Some of it's like, oh, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, they want it to be bullshit, but in their experience, it kind of isn't. And so I kind of back off making strong proclamations to let the experts do that. I just know experientially that's not how I want to buy weed.
Yeah.
But I've definitely been in a club where I didn't know anyone in there. I didn't know any of the brands in there. And I'm looking at one strain or the other, and I got the one that said 38 instead of said 28.
Yeah.
So I've fallen prey to that, even though I know it's nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more about quality of the actual plant to begin with, the quality of the grower, how it was grown, how fresh it is. I think now more than anything, I'm looking at freshness dates because so many of our clubs are selling old cannabis.
Oh my God, so old.
Yeah, and so I'm more worried about the freshness date than I am the THC percentage. But I'm really worried about the brand. Like, is this a brand that I trust? Is this a brand that I fuck with?
Yeah.
Do I know them? And then if all things being equal, if I have no idea who you are, if I have no idea what the brand is, like, you got to go to OG, you know?
Yeah. Stay true. OG.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what's up. Okay. Well.
Ooh, old school strawberry cough. Kyle Cushman's strawberry cough.
Strawberry cough.
Kyle Cushman from LA, his strawberry cough that he didn't invent, but his name is attached to it. That version of strawberry cough. I'm biased. Me and my boys used to grow it. I've never consumed anything that made me feel the way perfect strawberry cough did. Like, we used to make edibles from that, and it was like a psychedelic experience. It was like acid. It was like the walls were melting. You see rainbows. It was.
That sounds fun.
Oh, I miss the old school strawberry cough. Yeah, it was delicious.
Old school strawberry cough. Yeah. Damn. I know Agricola had some strawberry cough.
They did, and it was amazing. But it was different than Cushman's cut.
Yeah.
And so as much as it was amazing, like I definitely like look for Cushman's cut when I can find it. Source Cannabis out of LA, it was rocking it for a long time. I don't think if they're even still growing it, it ain't the same because they just had it for too long. It's not the same. So I think more than strains, I'll track down brands. Like I said, I really like Sense. I really like Sanctuary. I really in LA, I love Source. And anyone who's doing indoor organic, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to because you're spending more time and money doing that.
Right.
And Source are indoor organic flowers down there. And I don't know what the hell Sense is doing. That's just delicious.
Where's Sense from?
San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're part of the same little crew as Up North and Fig Farm. So you'll often see all three together. Yeah. And like definitely like I feel like in NorCal, those three companies are the top of the top shelf, even though like Moon Below. There's a couple other strong ones, but Up North has the best sativas, the old school sativas. They got a bunch of Durbans, Maui Hazes. They do a really good trade with old school sativas. Fig Farm does a lot of their own in-house breeding and crossing, so they have like their own unique strains. And then Sense will get like the best of what's popular and do it better than ever. So they'll get shit from Compound Genetics or some from other breeders, and they'll just do like a phenomenal version of it. And so I'll dance between those three, or Joe Snow.
Hell yeah.
Or Sanctuary. It's good. Bug Your Dad.
Yeah, we got
Pops,
good.
I need some weed.
Yeah. We always have free weed at the distro.
Yeah, but you often run out of the blue unicorn and the sour guava, and I'm not as excited. I don't care what you say. I want my blue unicorn and sour guava.
Mix sour guava goes off.
Yeah, but if you blend them together, that's the joint.
Is it?
Yeah, man, it's the best. Blue unicorn with a little sour guava.
Okay.
I'm saying.
I'll have to try that. My own business.
It's fire. Yeah. It's fire. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, sour guava makes me really creative.
Yep. Y'all sell it too fast to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I like to smoke it, though.
Yeah. All right, well, tell me a story.
Whoa.
Tell me a story because
that can't be a Chelsea question.
It is a Chelsea question.
What story does she want you?
Chelsea wants you to give me some insight on a story that you've lived.
That I've lived.
A story, it says, tell me about a time you wouldn't believe unless you lived it.
Tell me about a time I would not believe unless you lived it.
Yeah. Give us some insight into T-Dog's life.
I guess no.
No.
I mean, instantly all the stories that I thought of are not necessarily cannabis appropriate. I've lived very different lives.
Yeah.
And so I've been in the cannabis industry, and I've been in the youth development industry, and I've been into some other industries that were not cannabis or youth development. Yeah. But sensitive people from both of those places might not appreciate it. Okay. So it instantly brought up those stories.
Okay.
And I like those stories.
All right.
I mean, I feel. The story, I guess. In terms of what's relevant for here,
what's relevant?
Part of going back to the starting of this, of why did I start Coloring Cannabis podcast? I was doing a dab bar at Harborside Health Center for 7/10 in July.
Okay.
And they have an enclosed glass room for clones where we can dab in there too. Right. This is HVAC and all that. And so I was back there one afternoon, like doing little free dabs, whatever we're doing. And this older lady came in. She was like 70, 80-year-old black lady. And she was just physically tired. She didn't want to stand in line. She just needed a seat. The only chairs were in this little glass box. Yeah. So she comes in to sit down, and she's asking what I'm doing. So I'm explaining what dabbing is and what all that stuff. She's like, oh, how long have you worked for the company? I was like, this is my company. And she was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, she was stunned. It's like, she was like, she didn't know that there's people that looked like her that owned any cannabis businesses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like, I was like, let's go. I started pointing these things on the shelf, Black owned, Latin owned, woman owned, like, I don't know what the hell they are, but you know what I mean? Just all these different folks doing stuff. And there's like a lot, and there's little indicators, like stars and these little icons next to the products so that people could identify it. But she's 80. Like, she can't see
no idea
the
what
fine
that
print,
means.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see the fine print, you know? So she was just stunned at how many of us were and how well represented we were.
Yeah.
And then she was talking about how when she was smoking when she was younger, they had to worry about losing their children. Because black families would get their children taken from them if someone reported that someone in the family was smoking weed. So her trying to smoke weed in the 50s was risking losing her children. So as much as she kind of liked weed, because I guess her granddad grew it in the ditch, I mean, however they're getting weed back then, she knew she couldn't safely do it. Yeah. And so it was a big deal when her kids were old enough that she could smoke and not worry about losing them. And it was a big deal where she didn't have to worry about going to jail and getting hit over the head for it. Yeah. And so just the fact that there was like medical cannabis was like a huge thing in her life. And now that there's legal cannabis, and it's just like, it kind of blew her mind that she could safely consume. And that would kind of changed her life and changed how she related to the plant.
Right.
But then it was just the assumption that it's like capitalism, it's just owned by others. Right. So for her to find out that there's people in her own community that are growing it, and that she literally started crying and like hugged me. Wow. And it was just like, and I take it for granted that people have long histories with cannabis. And for many people, especially people of color, it's been a negative history in terms of their dealing with the law enforcement or just dealing with powers that be. Yep. And so for people to be able to safely come into the light, out of the shadows, of just being able to consume openly and passionately and be able to talk about it, and then to be kind of part of that and to be able to be part of her story about that. Like, that was profound. Yeah. That's one of those things that keep me plugged in.
Yeah. And keep you going.
Yeah.
We need to hear stories like that.
Yeah, grandma.
Yeah. My grandma smokes weed.
That's what I'm talking about. You're a lucky woman.
Both of my grandmas smoke weed.
That's awesome. I would love to have been able to got stoned with my grandma. My grandmother was a character. She was a character. When she was at the end, she had really bad diabetes. Oh. And she was like falling apart. But she would always ask me, like, can you get me a beer? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, of course. And the whole family's like, you can't give her a beer. She's going to die. I was like, she's going to die in 30 seconds. Like, relax. I mean, like,
let her have a beer.
Grandma wants a beer. She raised all of your as parents. Grandma wants me to give her a beer. So I get her a tall boy, and I'd roll up a joint in the backyard, and we'd be going. And she'd be like, oh, is that them funny cigarettes you like? And we would just have this we had a great interaction. And if you talk to anyone else in my family, grandma was not cool about smoking, drinking, nothing. So they're like, grandma just laughed at you while you were smoking a joint? It's like, hell yeah, I gave her a Coors Light. And so, I don't even know how we got onto that, but I miss grandma.
Grandma smoking weed, enjoying
I wish I had the opportunity to smoke with my grandma, but she did drink when I was smoking. That was
enjoying cannabis with our families. Yeah. It's a privilege for sure.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
I smoke with my family.
You're a lucky woman. You're a lucky woman.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, is there anything else that we should know about Terryn?
No.
And Oakland Extracts?
Happy to be here. Happy to release new products soon.
I think it's cool, this podcast. I think it's super cool that you've given people this platform to be able to tell their truths and tell their stories, because I think it's good for like people my age to hear, you know, because I know a lot of the people that you're talking to, and just to like hear everything that you guys have gone through and how you're still like persevering and you're still like keep going and stuff. Like it's really influential for me and for a lot of other people. So I want to say, like, this is super dope. I love it. I love it.
I've been very surprised that people have come out of the woodwork to say that. I have some very cynical friends, and it's cool to see the response to this. And I'm just super excited about the next guest we have coming. We have a bunch of episodes we haven't released. We have a bunch of people that we're about to talk to over the next couple of weeks. So I'm super stoked.
Want to give us some?
No teasers.
No teasers?
They haven't booked it yet. People take a long time, but I'm just very excited at just everyone I've talked to. I've been blown away at their story, and I've been blown away at learning more about them. And it's an opportunity for me to kind of refocus my business.
We're hella interesting.
Yeah, folks are.
We're hella interesting.
Sure.
We black people,
brown people, yellow people. Everybody's interesting.
Yeah, but we're especially interesting.
Okay. Yeah. You are special.
I am. Thank you.
But thank you for interviewing me. Taking the time to do this. I know your dad misses you at Distro running stuff.
Yeah, so I'll be running it.
Yeah, and you'll be running our Instagram and all that. So you do our social. Anyways, people wondering who Michaela is. She's a wonderful person that runs our Instagram. So whatever is good with that is coming from her. And so. Yeah, I got to give you so you can actually directly open because I got to do a new password because I forgot my password because I don't write my passwords down and I forget them every time I make them.
People your age always lose their passwords.
Hey man, the phone's supposed to remember it for you, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'd be driving, and I'm talking to the woman, and I can't do all that.
Yeah.
That's why we hire children to do it for us. Not
I wouldn't say children.
Youngsters, hella youngsters,
young adults,
extra youngsters. I'm sure that's too much.
Okay.
Youngsters.
27. I'm 27.
Yeah, but I'm old though. Like that's young.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as young as some people watching this, but that's young.
Yeah.
You're gonna put this on TikTok. That's gonna be old for people on TikTok. You're
gonna
be the old lady
on TikTok.
Yeah. I'm 48. I don't know how to talk or tick, so I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm good.
TikTok is a whole different beast.
It's not for me.
No. It has some funny shit though.
It's true, and when they send it off to my IG, I'm great. But when I actually have to open the app, it's not cool. It's a lot of stuff I don't know. It's little kids dancing, not well. I'm cool.
Yeah. A lot of people dancing.
A lot of people dancing.
Hopefully I can get you to do a TikTok dance.
I will not be dancing on TikTok. And when they let you smoke, I'll smoke, but no dancing on TikTok.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me interview you.
It was awesome. Thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah.
And I'll see you at Distro tomorrow or Monday or whatever.
Well, tomorrow's Saturday.
Oh, so Monday.
Yeah. Monday. Yes. I'll be there on Monday.
All right. Thank you.